So the title of this sermon is Finding the Constant. Who better to speak to that than Peter and Gail Held, who have 4 generations established in this church. Amazing. So what we know is the only thing that is constant is change. And the only thing guaranteed in life are death and taxes. Thank you for coming. Please pray with me. Creator of all hopes and dreams, we gather today to listen to your whispers and feel your gentle nudges and tugs upon our hearts. Grant us the courage to hear and act with the talents and treasures that you have bestowed upon us. Amen. I don't need to tell you because you feel it, but the weight of the world is upon us. It's heavy. I would say the world is operating at least 10% off its best game. We know this when we deal with people on the telephone in customer service. We know this when we're doing our own tasks. There's typos, there's errors, there's distractions. We have such short memories. We remember the past as easier. It was so carefree. It was perfect. All right, I can't fool you. But there is darkness upon us, and sometimes it feels like we can't see our way forward. And when we look back, the sun shone so brightly upon us. But I'm going to give you a little bit of your own history. I'm going to remind you of who you are, who CCSM was, who it is, but also what it can be. I want to help you remember the shoulders upon which you stand. This church was started as a donation of treasure, land donated for $5 during the years of the Civil War. Back then, it wasn't the fear of what might be happening with a divided electorate. It was really happening. It was brother against brother, bloodied and killed every day, with an estimated 620,000 deaths. The days were dark. In the face of uncertainty, this church begins, and it builds a structure with a steeple, showing hope for the ministries. For almost 40 years, the early members waited for just the right minister to lead them into a stable existence. They hired one almost every year for 5 years. In 1906, an earthquake rocked the foundations of the building. It wasn't the fear of a leaky roof. The steeple really fell off. And then the pastor ran off. Jeez. In 1923, Reverend Kloss finally gave them the security that they had all been praying for. Security in very uncertain times. In 1931, this sanctuary that houses our prayers was built, and membership doubled from 176 to 425. And it wasn't because the days were great and light and easy. It was during the Depression. It was not just the fear of economic hardships, of no jobs, no money, and not a lot of hope. It was the reality. But people came in their darkest hours, in their sleepless nights, and the worst nightmares happening in the light of day. They came. They faced the fears of hatred as their Japanese brothers and sisters were interned at camps in Utah. They carried that darkness with hope. By 1956, the membership had quadrupled to 1,600 members. It wasn't because life was perfect. Life was not perfect. The wounds of a world war were still evident by loss and injury and injustice. The hours of darkness were spent on bended knee in prayer between these very walls. When it seemed like things were more stable as a nation, a long overdue movement rocked the nation. The civil rights movement was addressing the foundational injustices upon which this country was built. It happened here and it happened out there with the inspiration of Jesus, the rebel that he has always been, standing against the establishment. His message of treating the unjust echoed in this room, in these hearts, and in these members of CCSM. There was just not fear of leaders being assassinated. It was the reality of the day. The division over the Vietnam War divided a country, families, and friends. Those who served were disregarded, and those who stood in peace seen as traitors. It wasn't just fear of divisiveness. It was a reality of the times. Friends, we have known hard, dark days before. These past years have indeed been challenging. We have been separated from one another. We have been sick. And we buried too many people without goodbyes. It hasn't just been a feeling of being overwhelmed. It's been a reality of being overwhelmed. We were kept from these walls that supported our ancestors during their dark days of the years of uncertainty and distress. And some days, it does feel as though we can't catch our breath, literally and figuratively. Now that the church has reopened to hold us and our prayers, allowing us to gather in community and be better together rather than scared and alone, we have a choice as to what our historical narrative will be. How will history remember us during this pandemic period? Do we dwindle and walk away to be alone in the darkness of the times? Do we stand in fear of what might happen rather than the truth of our reality? Can we keep perspective? Can we keep hope? Can we keep faith? Can we keep loving one another? Our ancestors, who were the stewards of this church for the last 158 years, said yes to every one of those questions. Yes, we will keep moving into the future despite the heaviness and realities of the day. Yes, we are hopeful. Yes, we are faithful. And yes, love will win. In times of trouble, will it be written that we came together to be stronger? You are the authors of this next chapter.
Good morning. I'm Gail Held, and I've been part of CCSM my entire life. I was born into this beloved community, as was my sister Allison Schwant, and we've been involved in here for as long as I can remember. Sunday school, youth choir, youth groups through high school. Peter and I even met here at high school youth group, but we didn't start dating until after college. We were married here in 1980, and had our reception in Class Hall. It was kind of a fancy coffee hour with champagne. Our children, Stephen and Kim, were baptized here and were actively involved in all the youth programs at CCSM. Youth choir, bell choir with the Nell, Christmas pageants, organ camp with Angela, and youth groups with Betsy. And they both were married here, Stephen and Laura in 2013, and Kim and Javi in 2015. Our oldest grandson, Jack, was baptized here, but the pandemic has delayed the baptism of our other two grandchildren, Owen and Maya. CCSM has truly been our church home. But what makes a home? It's a place of caring and warmth, of love and concern, and of course, family. Our church family has been an important part of our lives, beginning as we were raising Stephen and Kim. We have made strong friendships over the years with families here at CCSM who have been and who continue to be a source of support and love. Our families have grown up together, learned together, vacationed together, celebrated together, and grieved together. Stephen and Kim are blessed to have been surrounded by so many loving people who have helped them grow into the capable and loving adults that they have become. They grew up knowing that they were supported by church friends who cared about them and who would help them in any way. My hope is that my grandchildren, Jack, Owen, and Maya, will know what it means to be part of a church family. As our world becomes more polarized, it will be important for them to learn to be compassionate and caring. I hope that CCSM will be their church family.
Well, it looks like you pretty much covered it, honey. That was great. I am Peter, the other half of the Peter Held, Gail Held couple. I started here in 1968, so I've been here much of my life. I was here freshman year in high school is when I started, because my father was called here. Oh, don't bang on that. My father was called here as a senior pastor. So yes, I was a PK. And I have many fond memories of this place. And obviously, currently, it's a big part of our life. But back then, the big thing for me was high school youth group, because that's where the friendships, the relationships, that's where Gail was. But the big thing for us at that time was having something to look forward to, something special. And at that time, it was a mission trip to Hawaii. And we actually did raise money and work hard, and that's something we put off for a couple years down the road, and that was a fun thing. And when we were newlyweds, we taught first grade, and later on were adult advisors for the high school youth group. As young parents, we continued to help as we could. We served on different boards and committees, and ultimately I was moderator in the late 1980s. That was during another transitional time in our church. We were also advisors to the high school youth group, so it keeps cycling through. How did we get this old? As young parents, we continued on and did many important things, as I said, the moderatorship, but also we served on the committee, or I served on the committee that brought Reverend Penny Nixon here, which was spectacular. And we all have close memories about her since she just was with us. Lately, I've been relegated to helping out with the ushers, generally in the back of the church, and I was Volunteer of the Week for helping move tables this night. So this is not my normal job here. But what keeps me coming back to the Congregational Church is we are extremely welcoming to all people, and that's an important part as we go forward. And it has to be a critical thing for us to get up here that usually don't speak and speak out. I like to kind of be, I think it said behind the scenes, well, this is very much in front of the scenes, but there's so much about this church, and we're concerned about our environment and how the church leaves a legacy for our kids in the next generations, and then hopefully also how we treat our world. The other special thing, as a grandpa looking back, I really appreciate all the mentors and friends and people I've gotten to know and the growth that you get here. As a high school kid, we're stumbling around trying to figure it all out. But as adults, many of you have reached out and made a big difference in our lives, as well as the most important thing, and that's our family and my wife. So Gail and I are truly blessed to have been part of this church community, and we hope that it will continue on for another 50 years and be a relevant place in a vital spiritual community. Thank you.
You don't have 4 generations of families here just during the good days, right? This is a commitment to what church means for families in the good days, in the bad days, in the abundance, and in those lean years. I want to share with you 6 little stories with lots of meaning, which is a Facebook post by Paul Gorman. And I want you to listen to how you might be part of this. Once all the villagers decided to pray for rain, and on the day of prayer, all the people gathered, but only one boy came with an umbrella. That's faith. When you throw babies in the air, they laugh because they know you will catch them. That's trust. Every night we go to bed without any assurance of being alive the next morning, but we still set the alarms to wake up. That's hope. We plan big things for tomorrow in spite of zero knowledge of the future. That's confidence. When we see the world suffering, but we still get married and have children, that's love. On an old man's sweatshirt was a sentence written, "I am not 80 years old. I am sweet 16 with 64 years of experience." And that is attitude. So friends, going forward from this day on, what are you going to write into your hearts? And how are you going to be present in this community? Are you going to bring your faith and your trust and your hope and the just right attitude? It's been evidenced by the Held family for 4 generations now. And you too can write that legacy for yourselves and your families. I hope that the story says that we were constant during dark days. Amen.